good human beings, also known as my ardent fans. I take it for granted you, your dear and dear, are fine and dandy. It's ideal earthling, Professor S. Suresh with absolute delight, back for my 49th video in pipeline for publication on YouTube today, 22nd of July 2020. Topic for discussion today is happiness index measurement and enhancement. The term happiness is used in the context of mental or emotional states, including positive or pleasant emotions ranging from contentment to intense joy. It's also used in the context of life satisfaction, subjective well-being. Eudaimonia, a contented state of being happy and healthy and prosperous, flourishing and well-being. Since the 1960s, happiness research has been conducted in a wide variety of scientific disciplines, including gerontology, social psychology, and positive psychology, clinical and medical research, and happiness economics. The term happiness is used in relation to two factors. The current experience of the feeling of an emotion, affect such as pleasure or joy, or of a more general sense of emotional condition as a whole. For instance, Daniel Kahneman has defined happiness as what I experience here and now. This usage is prevalent in dictionary definitions of happiness, appraisal of life satisfaction such as quality of life. For instance, Ruth Weinhoven has defined happiness as overall appreciation of one's life as a whole. Kahneman has said that this is more important to people than current experience. Subjective well-being includes measures of current experience, emotions, moods, and feelings, and of life satisfaction. Eudaimonia is a Greek term variously related, translated as happiness, welfare, flourishing, and blessedness. Xavier Lance has proposed that happiness include measures of subjective well-being, mood, and eudaimonia. The implied meaning of the word happiness may vary depending on context, qualifying happiness as a polysemy, the ambiguity of an individual word or phrase that can be used in different contexts to express one or more different meanings, and a fuzzy concept. Philosophy of happiness is often discussed in conjunction with ethics. Traditional European societies inherited from the Greeks and from Christianity often linked happiness with morality, which was concerned with the performance in a certain kind of role in a certain kind of social life. However, with the rise of individualism, begotten for partly by Protestantism and capitalism, the links between duty in a society and happiness were gradually broken. The consequence was a redefinition of the moral terms. Happiness is no longer defined in relation to social life but in terms of individual psychology. Happiness, however, remains a difficult term for moral philosophy. Through the history of moral philosophy, there has been an oscillation between attempts to define morality in terms of consequences leading to happiness and attempts to define morality in terms that have nothing to do with happiness at all. In the Nicomachean Ethics, written in 350 BCE, Aristotle stated that happiness, also being well and doing well, is the only thing that humans desire for their own sake, unlike riches, honor, health, or friendship. He observed that men sought riches or honor or health not only for their own sake but also in order to be happy. For Aristotle, the term eudaimonia, which is translated as happiness or flourishing, is an activity rather than an emotion or a state. Eudaimonia, from Greek, is a classical Greek word, consists of the word eu for good or well-being and daemon, spirit or minor deity, used by extension or to mean one's lot or fortune. Thus understood, the happy life is a good life, that is, a life in which a person fulfills human nature in an excellent way. Specifically, Aristotle argued that the good life is a life of excellent rational activity. He arrived at this claim with the functional argument. Basically, if it is right, every living thing has a function which it uniquely does. For Aristotle, human function is to reason, since it is that alone which humans uniquely do, and performing one's function well or excellently is good. According to Aristotle, the life of excellent rational activity is the happy life. Aristotle argued a second best life for those incapable of excellent rational activity was a life of moral virtue. Western ethicists have made arguments for how humans should behave, either individually or collectively, based on the resulting happiness of such behavior. Utilitarians such as John Stuart Mill and Jeremy Bentham advocated the greatest happiness principle as a guide for ethical behavior. In 2004, Darren McMahon claimed that over time the emphasis shifted from the happiness of virtue to the virtue of happiness. Not all cultures seek to maximize happiness, and some cultures are averse to happiness. Don't live in your own paradox of happiness. Ultimately, it will heal only misery for everybody on earth. Happiness, in its broadest sense, is the label for a family of pleasant emotional states such as joy, amusement, satisfaction, gratification, euphoria, and triumph. Theories on how to achieve happiness include encountering unexpected positive events, seeing a significant other, and basking in the acceptance and praise of others. However, others believe that happiness is not solely derived from external momentary pleasures. Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a pyramid depicting the levels of human needs, psychological and physical. When a human being ascends the steps of the pyramid, he or she reaches the self-actualization. Beyond the routine of needs fulfillment, Maslow envisioned moments of extraordinary experience known as peak experiences, profound moments of love, understanding, happiness or rapture, during which a person feels more whole, alive, self-sufficient, and yet a part of the world. This is similar to the flow concept of Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. Several scales have been developed to measure happiness. First one is a subjective happiness scale, shortly SHS, is a full item scale measuring global subjective happiness from 1999. The scale requires participants to use absolute ratings to characterize themselves as happy or unhappy individuals, as well as it asks to what extent they identify themselves with the descriptions of happy and unhappy individuals. Second one, the positive and negative affect schedule, shortly PANAS, from 1988, is a 20-item questionnaire using 5-point Likert scale. 1 is equal to very slightly or not at all, 5 is extremely equal to extremely. To assess the relation between personality traits and positive and negative affects at this moment, today, the past few days, the past week, the past few weeks, the past year, and in general. A longer version with additional affect scales were published 1994. The satisfaction with the life scale, shortly SWLS, is a global cognitive assessment of life satisfaction developed by Ed Diner. A 7-point Likert scale is used to agree or disagree with the 5 statements about one's life. The Cantrell ladder method has been used in the World Happiness Report. Respondents are asked to think of a ladder with the best possible life for them being a 10 and the worst possible life being a 0. They are then asked to rate their own current lives on that 0 to 10 scale. Fifth one is positive experience. The survey by Gallup asks if the day before people experienced enjoyment, laughing or smiling a lot, feeling well rested, being treated with respect, learning or doing something interesting. 9 of the top 10 countries in 2018 were South American, led by Paraguay and Panama. Country scores range from 85 to 43. Since 2012, a World Happiness Report has been published. Happiness is evaluated as in how happy are you with your life as a whole, and in emotional reports as in how happy are you now. And people seem able to use happiness as appropriate in these verbal contexts. Using these measures, the report identifies the countries with the highest levels of happiness. In subjective well-being measures, the primary distinction is between cognitive life evaluations and emotional reports. The UK began to measure national well-being in 2012, following Bhutan, which had already been measuring gross national happiness. Happiness has been found to be quite stable over time. As of 2016, no evidence of happiness causing improved physical health has been found. A positive relationship has been suggested between the volume of the brain's grey matter in the right precuneus area and one's subjective happiness score. Some studies, including 2018 by June Gruber, a psychologist at University of Colorado, USA, has suggested that seeking happiness can have negative effects such as failure to meet over high expectations. The 2012 study found that psychological well-being was higher for people who experienced both positive and negative emotions. Other researchers analyzed possible trade-offs between happiness and meaning in life. Not all cultures seek to maximize happiness. Sigmund Freud said that humans strive after happiness, but that the possibilities of achieving it are restricted because we are so made that we can derive intense enjoyment only from a contrast and very little from the state of things. In politics, happiness as a guiding ideal is expressed in the United States Declaration of Independence of 1776, written by Thomas Jefferson, as the universal right to the pursuit of happiness. This seems to suggest a subjective interpretation, but one that goes beyond emotions alone. It has to be kept in mind that the word happiness meant prosperity, thriving, well-being in the 18th century and not the same thing as it does today. Common market health measures such as GDP and GNP, gross domestic product and gross national product, have been used as a measure of successful policy. On average, richer nations tend to be happier than poorer nations, but this effect seems to diminish with wealth. This has been explained by the fact that the dependency is not linear but logarithmic. That is, the same percentage increase in the GNP produces the same increase in happiness for wealthy countries as for poor countries. Libertarian think tank Cato Institute claims that economic freedom correlates strongly with happiness, preferably within the context of a Western mixed economy with a free press and a democracy. According to certain standards, East European countries, when ruled by communist parties, were less happy than Western ones, even less happy than other equally poor countries. Since 2003, empirical research in the field of happiness economics, such as that by Benjamin Radcliffe, professor of political science at the University of Notre Dame, supported the contention that in democratic countries, life satisfaction is strongly and positively related to the social democratic model of a generous social safety net, pro-worker labor market regulations, and strong labor unions. Similarly, there is evidence those public policies which reduce poverty and support a strong middle class, such as a higher minimum wage, strongly affect average levels of well-being. It has been argued that happiness measures could be used not as a replacement for more traditional measures but as a supplement. According to the Cato Institute, people constantly make choices that decrease their happiness because they have more important aims. Therefore, government should not decrease the alternatives available for the citizens by patronizing them, but let the citizen keep a maximal freedom of choice. Good mental health and good relationships contribute more than income to happiness, and governments should take these into account. The economics of happiness, happiness economics, is a quantitative and theoretical study of happiness, positive and negative effect, well-being, quality of life, life satisfaction, and related concepts, typically combining economics with other fields such as psychology, health, and sociology. It typically treats such happiness-related measures rather than wealth, income, or profit as something to be maximized. Happiness is typically measured using subjective measures, example self-reported surveys, and objective measures. One concern has always been the accuracy and reliability of people's responses to happiness surveys. Objective measures such as lifespan, income, and education are often used as well as or instead of subjectively reported happiness, though this assumes that they generally produce happiness, which, while plausible, may not necessarily be the case. The terms quality of life or well-being are often used to encompass these more objective measures. Happiness is the meaning and purpose of life, the whole aim and end of human existence, by Aristotle. The mental state of well-being defined by pleasant emotions ranging from contentment to intense joy is happiness. The Global Happiness Report states the global data on national happiness and evidence from the emerging science of happiness shows that the quality of people's lives can be assessed by a variety of subjective well-being measures collectively through as happiness. The happiness movement represents a new paradigm where social, economic and environmental systems are structured to encourage human well-being in a sustainable environment and to measure happiness. Happiness index was identified. Indexation of happiness is based on multiple measurable factors which have kept track of these index till now. Happiness index was coined in 2012 by World Happiness Report. The happiness index is defined as a weighted rate of respondents reporting very happy or quite happy, less the weighted rate of respondents reporting not very happy or not at all happy, plus 100. The index thus ranges from 0 to 200. The gross national happiness, shortly GNH, is an aggressive measure of a country's national production in the vein of the gross national product or gross domestic product. Gross national happiness, shortly GNH, measures the sum total of economic output and also of net environmental impacts, the spiritual and cultural growth of citizens, mental and physical health, and the strength of the corporate and political systems. Happiness is defined as a degree to which an individual judges the overall quality of his life or her life as a whole positively, or in short, how well one likes the life one lives. In this way, happiness belongs to a wider class of subjective appraisals of life, which is usually referred to as subjective well-being, shortly SWB, or life satisfaction. The obvious way to measure it is to ask the individual to give his or her opinion on one's own happiness situation. Standard methods of measuring happiness in practice are survey studies, happiness measured as a discrete variable at the ordinal level of measurement, happiness research at the individual versus the collective level, cumulative frequency distribution of happiness in a sample, index numbers for the statistical distribution of happiness, non-standard methods. Language reveals ancient definitions of happiness and the way in which happiness was conceived. The word for happiness in every Indo-European language without exception is related to the word for luck, originating from the ancient Greek. The linguistic pattern gives away the fact that in ancient Greek, happiness was thought to be uncontrollable, in the hands of God and dictated by fate or fortune. The acknowledged Webster Dictionary offers two definitions of happiness: the state of well-being characterized by emotions ranging from contentment to intense joy, and second one, good luck, good fortune, prosperity. Some say that happiness cannot be described but only felt. It's a feeling. One of the most famous definitions is that of the Greek philosopher Aristotle, 384 BC to 322 BC, saying happiness depends on ourselves. He introduced a science of happiness which held the idea that fulfillment of physical and mental well-being is a true requirement of a genuinely happy life. In one of his most influential works, the Nicomachean Ethics, plus or minus 350 BC, he concluded that the ultimate purpose of human existence, that which encompasses the totality of one's life, is happiness. Another conception of happiness is that the Chinese folk psychology. 142 undergraduate students wrote responses to the question, what is happiness, in 2001. Using thematic analysis, 4 main themes were found. First one, a mental state of satisfaction and contentment. 2, a harmonious state of existence determined by the individual. 3, an entity depending on unhappiness and contrast and meaning. And 4, the wisdom of discovery, contentment contentment, gratitude, giving, and self-cultivation. Happy people make a better, healthier, stronger society. Well, happiness index was generated by Thierry Lee Roy, initiator of GlobeCo. Since the year 2000, the World Happiness Index is calculated to quantify world happiness per nation. It emphasizes on collective country level happiness and purposes to capture development and not the statistical situation of the country. Gross national happiness, shortly GNH, is a growth viewpoint as well as an index which is used to measure the collective happiness in a country. The concept was first coined in Bhutan. The term gross national happiness was created in 1979 during a dialogue at Bombay airport when the then monarch of Bhutan, Jigme Singye Wangchuk, said, "We do not believe in gross national product. Gross national happiness is more important." The World Happiness Index is an alteration of the Human Development Index as it adopts the same statistical aggregation method. It aims to measure the happiness of countries and it defines the following themes as preconditions for a happy country: peace and security, freedom, democracy and human rights, living standards, research, education, information, communication and culture. According to Meena Poti in 2007, happiness at the workplace means a situation at the workplace when personnel are happy working and not feeling like it is work, or efficient and achieve targeted goals both at the personal and organizational levels. 5 risk factors account for happiness at the workplace. 1. Job inspiration. Employees are satisfied with their assigned job and are able to achieve goals. 2. Organization's shared value, collective behaviors and culture of the organization. Relationship. There are interaction, group bonding and acceptance among co-workers. Quality of work life. The relationship between 3 elements, namely work environment, employee participation and humanization of work. A good balance among these 3 elements results in collective satisfaction, which leads to highest level of efficiency. 5th one, leadership. Executives or heads of the organization promote and create happiness for personnel when they work by creating motivation, awareness and dedication to the subordinates. How many of you make the other people around you happy? One should smile. It creates a good ambience. Leaders also engage in two-way transparent communication with the staff, and they themselves are dedicated to create good atmosphere for the staff as well. Measuring the gross national happiness index comprises of 33 indicators that originate from good atmosphere for the staff as well. Measuring the gross national happiness index comprises of 33 indicators that originate from 9 diverse core areas. The domains within GNH are the components of happiness, and each one is equally weighted in the index. The 9 domains of GNH are education, good governance, cultural diversity and resilience, psychological well-being, time use, health, community vitality, living standard, 9, ecological diversity and resilience. One of the largest criticisms of GNH is that the domains and indicators are relatively subjective. Critics claim that because of the subjectivity of the indicators, it is moreover difficult to get an accurate quantitative measurement on happiness. They also say that due to the subjectivity, governments may be able to change GNH results in a way that best suits their interest. That means that it can be manipulated to suit their own convenience. Still, other critics claim that the definition and therefore the ranking of happiness differs country by country, and that is, it is problematic to use Bhutan's indicators as measurements to access happiness to progress in other countries. One cannot divine nor forecast the conditions that will make happiness. One only stumbles upon them by chance in a lucky hour of the world's ends somewhere and holds fast to the days as to the fortune or fate. By Villa Cather, Lee Lavando in 1902. Happiness is not a stationary arrival but a manner of traveling. By Margaret Lee Runbeck, novelist. The Cantrell ladder or the happiness ladder is used by researchers where the sample population is asked to rank their satisfaction with respect to their present living conditions. The ladder is assumed to be numbered from 0 to 10, where 10 represents the best possible life and living conditions, whereas 0 represents the worst possible life and living conditions. More than 1 million samples have been taken in total from across various nations, and the answers have been used to create the yearly happiness index. The Gallup World Poll questionnaire measures 14 areas within its core questionnaire, which includes business and economics, citizen engagement, communication and technology, social diversity, education and family, individual well-being, environment and energy, food and shelter, government and politics, law and order, health, religion and ethics, transportation and work culture. The happiness index is simply calculated by taking an average of all these factors to a single number. The Gallup poll interviews roughly around 1,000 registered citizens of a country each year. These people are randomly selected, and it is made sure that they are 15 years of age or older. According to researchers of the World Happiness Report, there are 7 key factors which have a very positive and high correlation with the happiness index. First one is gross domestic product, GDP. Second one, social support. Third one, health life expectancy. Fourth one, freedom to make choices. Fifth one, generosity. Sixth, citizens' opinion of corruption. According to the latest World Happiness Report published by the United Nations Sustainable Development Solutions Network report, India has dropped down 7 spots in the happiness ranking from its position in 2018. India's rank is 140th, 140 out of 152 countries as of March 2019. It must also be noted that India's ranking is far behind that of its immediate neighbors like Nepal, Bhutan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh and Pakistan. There are various reasons for this low ranking. The first one being the increasing levels of poverty and inequality prevailing in India. There are people in India who do not get food to eat and are living in deplorable conditions. The GHI, or Global Hunger Index, has ranked India 102 out of 118 countries, which is a very poor score and a serious matter of concern. Moreover, the Indian economy is going through a recessionary phase where employment is in a huge state of crisis. India might be growing quantitatively, but it is not developing, which is more of a qualitative index. One of the major ways of facilitating economic development is to ensure continued growth and justice through a better distribution of the national wealth produced in the country. A 2017 survey said that India's richest 1% have garnered about 73% of the total wealth created in the country. Health, be it physical or mental, is a vital factor in people's happiness and well-being. However, we see that India's public health spending is well below the global average at just 1.4% of its GDP. This leaves our huge population who are mostly poor and deprived, dependent on pitiable healthcare facilities. The shocking case of yearly fading physicians in Kerala, which is apparently the most socially advanced state in India, has also been observed, thus signifying how bleak the emerging situation in India is. India has failed to build a trustworthy and meaningful relationship among its citizens. This could be happening mostly because of a growing religion-based nationalist feelings which is being instilled among its people. Religious fanaticism. Maybe this manipulation is being used to maintain the control of power by the higher authorities. The country's insensitivity towards its own people could also be seen when devastating floods had engulfed Kerala and its people, and nasty comments with respect to religion were passed. India's political system and business establishments are not being able to function in a very effective way. Corruption and fraudulent practices still occur, as can be exemplified with respect to Nirav Modi's case and other similar cases like Kingfisher Airlines. What's his name? Kingfisher Airlines. Vijay Mallya. These could be the possible explanations as to why India's rank has dropped in the latest Global Corruption Perspective Index. India's attitude towards generosity and sympathy should also be noted. Our indifferent attitude towards the Rohingya, Rohingya crisis was utterly inhuman, which also throws light on a pseudo-nationalism, self-obsession, and Islamophobic attitude which is being further instilled among the people. On the contrary, India has previously welcomed and had provided warmth and shelter to Tibetan and Sri Lankan refugees. The fundamental reason why happiness or positivity is so important is because it is extremely vital for achieving our own goals in life. Happy people usually live for longer on an average, have stronger immune systems, endure pain better, are more content with the jobs, and are more productive. Marriages too are successful among happy couples. Happiness is a choice, and we must always choose to be happy under all circumstances. We have a very short life to live, and therefore we should surround ourselves with love, kindness, and abundant happiness. I don't know how many of you have heard these terms. You only live once. Shortly, YOLO, Y-O-L-O, you only die once. That is another concept. Y-O-D-O, YOLO and YODO. The Happy Planet Index, HPI, is an index of human well-being and environmental impact that was introduced by the New Economics Foundation, shortly NEF, in July 9, 2006. The index is weighted to give progressively higher scores to nations with lower ecological footprints. The index is designed to challenge well-established indices of countries' development, such as Gross Domestic Product, GDP, and Human Development Index, HDI, which are seen as not taking sustainability into account. In particular, GDP is seen as inappropriate, as the usual ultimate aim of most people is not to be rich but to be happy and healthy. Furthermore, it is believed that the notion of sustainable development requires a measure of the environmental cost of pursuing those goals. Out of the 178 countries surveyed in 2006, the best scoring countries were Vanuatu, Colombia, Costa Rica, Dominica, and Panama. In 2009, Costa Rica was the best scoring country among the 143 analyzed, followed by the Dominican Republic, Jamaica, Guatemala, and Vietnam. Tanzania, Botswana, and Zimbabwe were featured at the bottom of the list. For the 2012 ranking, 151 countries were compared, and the best scoring country for the second time in a row was Costa Rica, followed by Vietnam, Colombia, Belize, and El Salvador. The lowest ranking countries in 2012 were Botswana, Chad, and Quetta. In 2016, 2016, out of 140 countries, Costa Rica topped the index for the third time in a row. It was followed by Mexico, Colombia, Vanuatu, and Vietnam. At the bottom were Chad, Luxembourg, and Togo. The HPA is based on general utilitarian principles that most people want to live long and fulfilling lives, and the country which is doing the best is the one that allows its citizens to do so, whilst avoiding infringing on the opportunity of future people and people in other countries to do the same. In effect, it operationalizes the International Union of Conservation of Nature's, IUCN's, call for a metric capable of measuring the production of human well-being, not necessarily material goods, per unit of extraction of or imposition upon nature. The IUCN is an international organization working in the field of natural conservation and the sustainable use of natural resources, and everything else remains the same. It measures what matters as sustainable well-being for all. Human well-being is conceptualized as happy life expectancy. As such, the HPA is not a measure of which are the happiest countries in the world. The HPA is best conceived as a measure of the environmental efficiency of supporting well-being in a given country. Each country's HPA value is a function of its average subjective life satisfaction, life expectancy at birth, and ecological footprint per capita. The exact function is a little more complex, but conceptually it approximates multiplying life satisfaction and life expectancy and dividing that by the ecological footprint. General myths of happiness can be categorized into, first one, connections, which covers I'll be happy when I am married to the right person. I cannot be happy when my relationship has fallen apart. I'll be happy when I have kids. I can't be happy when I don't have a partner. Second category, work and money, which covers I'll be happy when I find the right job. I can't be happy when I am broke. I'll be happy when I am rich. Third category, looking back. I can't be happy when the test results were positive. I can't be happy when I know I'll never play shortstop for my favorite sports team. I can't be happy, the best years of my life are over. These are myths. MYTH. Yes. A great deal of research points up the error in these affective forecasts in the midst of happiness that most of us embrace. Finland is ranked as #1 country in the world for the happiness index as of now. The World Happiness Index is an alteration of the Human Development Index as it adopts the same statistical segregation method. It aims to measure the happiness of countries and it defines the following themes as preconditions for a happy country: peace and security, freedom, democracy and human rights, living standards, research, education, information, communication and culture. For the calculation of the index, it considers 10 indicators under each of these 4 themes. After you recognize the extent to which your beliefs about what will make you eternally happy and unhappy have been driving your reactions to life's challenges and transitions, you will be prepared to decide how to behave in ways that prompts happiness, flourishing and growth, to think instead of blink, relying on reasoning rather than instinct, exploring the myths of happiness means that there is no magic formula for happiness and no sure course toward misery, that nothing in life is as joy producing or as misery inducing as we think it is. Appreciating this truth cannot only liberate us, empower us and broaden our horizons, but it can grant us our best opportunity to choose well, to get it right. Happiness is highly subjective and varies from individual to individual. Happiness or sadness is a state of mind. Our brain has a crucial role to play. Basically, the state depends on our emotional attachments in our lives. Persons that do not have any attachments are the happiest ones on earth. Companies practice a good concept called benchmarking, which in simple terms is comparing themselves with the best company in the domain, in that sector, and then emulating the best practices, processes in these companies. There is nothing wrong in learning the good things from others. We don't need to stick our finger in open fire to realize that it hurts and burns the skin. We can learn a lot by keenly observing what is happening around us with our eyes and ears open. Be receptive to constructive criticisms as it helps you to refine your behavior. One needs to be thankful to the constructive critics, since they let us know our weaknesses, drawbacks. Accept the fact that we are living in an imperfect world and nobody is altruistically perfect. There are always opportunities for improvements and there is no end to it. In Japanese terminology, it is kaizen, also known as continuous process improvement. I conclude with a statement: seek happiness within yourself, live in harmony with nature, let peace prevail, be as virtuous as possible, shed your attachments, inhibitions and fear in life, live one day at a time, practice deep breathing and transcendental meditation, eat nutritious food. Some of the statements, views expressed are solely mine based on limited knowledge gained over 6 decades. Debates, discussion on topics like this can go on forever. Anyhow, let me call it a day. We'll meet again real soon. Rest in peace and harmony. Always watch these videos with a closed caption, subtitles for 100% absolute 100% comprehension. As per my sincere recommendation zillion times so far. I know I rushed through to complete the presentation within 20 minutes max. This is a time limit I had set myself to retain the viewer's attention as of now. I know this presentation is very lengthy. It should have most probably taken more than 40 minutes. I know nowadays I exceed this time limit since I make honest attempts to cover the selected topics more elaborately, including so many intricate fine details, referring a wide variety of sources available, in particular Wikipedia quite extensively, besides articles and books published recently. In addition, of course, I add my own salt and pepper and masala based on my personal experience so far in my life and also intuition. Stay at home as much as possible to maintain social distancing attributed to pandemic novel COVID-19 and prolong your lifespan. Lead a healthy life. God alone can put a stop to natural and unnatural events like pandemics, maybe biowar and cyber wars. Those are also happening, which may lead to apocalypse and extinction of all sentient species on earth for no fault of theirs. Just think of a possibility of a third world war. All the sentient species on earth will be no more within a matter of seconds. Okay, all the best. Peace.